They came from far away. It's not just another planet, but from the darkest, wildest corners of the galaxy, places where life itself was a fight every single day. These were not normal aliens. They were known as Deathworlders, species so tough, so dangerous that most planets feared even hearing their names. But even they had heard stories about one world, a blue planet on the edge of the galaxy, small in size but strange. The species that lived there had fought countless wars, survived plagues, and built powerful machines in just a few thousand years. The Deathworlders laughed when they read about it. Humans, they said, can't be that strong. It's dramatic storytellers. So they decided to come see for themselves. But they didn't want to visit the cities. No, that would be too easy. They wanted a real challenge. The heart of Earth's danger, place humans had sealed off long ago and warned the galaxy never. To enter Red Zone Alpha, this area had everything. Toxic storms, extreme heat, sudden freezing nights, predictable animal attacks, and land so unstable that it moved beneath your feet. Even satellites had trouble tracking it. No one lived there. Not even Earth's military dared step inside. Still, the Deathworlders were confident. 2,000 of their best soldiers landed in sleek black ships, tall, armored beings with claws, fangs, and eyes that glowed in the dark.
Nice.
Their technology could survive acid rain, magnetic storms, even mini black holes. Earth's wild zone. It'll be fun, one of them reportedly said before landing. When they touched down, everything looked calm. The trees were huge and still. The ground was dry and cracked. Strange birds flew overhead, making no sound. It was quiet. Quiet. Moved quickly, setting up camps and scanning the area. Everything seemed under control. But humans watching from orbit noticed something strange right away. Their sensors showed the zone reacting, the land shifting slightly, the air pressure changing, even the magnetic field around it, moving like something alive. Earth wasn't welcoming visitors. It was watching. The first night came, and with it, silence. But by morning, 50 of the Deathworlders were missing. No explosions. No signs of a fight. No alarms. Just ... gone. Their tents remained. Weapons untouched. Trackers dead. Some thought it was a prank. Others believed the humans were hiding and picking them off. But no humans had entered that area in decades. Even if they had, no human could take down those soldiers, not without leaving a trace. Commanders ordered tighter security. Patrols doubled. Camps reinforced. But on the second night, it happened again. This time, 100 vanished. Now the fear began to grow. These were not cowards. They'd fought wars on lava planets and hunted beasts the size of ships. But here, on Earth, they were dying without even understanding why. The land, the air, the very planet seemed to be against them. One soldier described the feeling as being watched by something with no eyes. Another said the ground whispers at night. Of course, their leaders dismissed it. Stay focused. Stay alert. But even they began to sense it. Their equipment started to glitch. Strong metal rusted in hours, their own scanners showed. Creatures that vanished the moment you looked away. One alien swore he saw a tree move, not sway, move. The others laughed, but deep down none of them were sure anymore. Meanwhile, up in orbit, Earth satellites kept watching, and the humans running the mission. They didn't say a word, because they knew something the Deathworlders didn't. Earth doesn't need to fight you, just waits for you to break yourself. And that's exactly what had started happening. The second night changed everything. The Deathworlders were still trying to understand what had happened. Over 100 soldiers had vanished. Now, with no sounds, no warnings, and no evidence. Their camps were untouched. It was like the land had swallowed them whole. The commanders ordered tighter defenses, stronger shields, night watches, motion sensors, and heat detectors. They believed this would stop whatever was out there. But Earth had different plans. The night started normally. The camp lights were bright, guards were alert, and everyone was on edge. But as the moon passed overhead, the fog rolled in. This thick, glowing fog that came from nowhere. It messed with their tech. Radios stopped working. Night vision showed only static. Some soldiers started hearing faint noises in the distant, soft breathing. Footsteps, laughter, but when they ran toward it, there was nothing. Suddenly, one of the outer patrols screamed. By the time others reached him, only his helmet remained crushed. Like paper, no tracks, no blood, just silence. And then another scream, and another. They weren't being hunted. They were being picked off fast, smart, and invisible. By morning, 200 more were gone. Now, the fear was real. These weren't just accidents or Earth's wild weather. Something inside this red zone was alive, and it wasn't playing fair. Some of the Deathworlders started arguing. A few wanted to retreat. "We underestimated this planet," one said. "We need to regroup and rethink." But their leaders refused. "We are Deathworlders. If we run now, the entire galaxy will laugh at us." So they stayed. The next plan was to move to higher ground. A rocky hill nearby gave a clear view of the land. They thought they could spot dangers better from there. As they moved up, the winds picked up too. Strong gusts tore through their armor and nearly lifted the smaller soldiers off the ground. Still, they reached the top and set up new camps. The rocks felt more stable, less green, less alive. For a short time, they felt safe, until the rocks started moving. Not all of them. Just a few, quietly, slowly. One soldier stepped on a flat surface and was immediately dragged down. The others watched in horror as the ground swallowed him like quicksand. They tried to save him, but their tools didn't work on whatever that rock was. He was gone in seconds. More cracks appeared in the ground. The rocks weren't just rocks, they were living organisms. Camouflaged, patient, deadly panic spread that night. The wind brought voices, not alien voices. Human voices, speaking calmly, softly, almost whispering. Some Deathworlders thought the humans were tricking them. "This is some mind attack," they said. But there were no humans there, no machines, no signal. One soldier sat shaking, repeating the same sentence. "They told me I don't belong here." Over and over, sleep became impossible. The food they brought started to rot, even inside sealed containers. The water tasted like metal. Some of them stopped eating. Others started hallucinating. One group even attacked their own teammates, thinking they were shapeshifters. The zone wasn't just killing them with creatures, or whether it was breaking them from the inside. Somewhere far above, human scientists watched the live footage. He quietly turned to his team and said, "It started. The land knows they're here." No one on Earth had dared to step into the red zone in years, not because they were weak, but because they understood it. They knew the land was like a trap, beautiful, silent, waiting. And now the Deathworlders were caught in it. They thought Earth was just another world to conquer. But Earth doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what galaxy you came from. If you disrespect it, it'll swallow you whole. By the time the third week started, the Deathworlders were no longer acting like fearless warriors. The ones who had once stood tall and laughed at danger now moved in silence, eyes darting around, hands always close to their weapons. Fear had taken root, not fear of war, not fear of the unknown. Fear of a place that made no noise, gave no clues, and offered no mercy. More than half their soldiers were gone. Some died from attacks they never saw. Others were lost in strange accidents. One simply stepped on a patch of moss and vanished. Another drank from a water stream, then collapsed, unable to breathe, his insides burning. Even the strong ones, the ones with thick skin and extra hearts, were falling apart. One screamed all night after seeing eyes in the sky. The others thought he was losing his mind, but that same night, their drones captured strange floating lights watching them from a distance. The eyes were real. What scared them most wasn't just the creatures or the deadly weather. It was the land itself. It felt alive. One soldier wrote in his report, "The trees move when we sleep. The ground listens. Sometimes I hear my own thoughts whispered back to me." Their high-tech tools no longer worked right. Scanners gave wrong readings. Maps kept changing. Even their emergency beacons started blinking on and off randomly. as if someone or something was blocking them on purpose. They tried to contact their ships in orbit. No signal. They tried to fly drones out of the zone. The drones crashed seconds after takeoff. They were trapped. The commanders gathered the remaining troops. "We hold this ground," one said, trying to sound strong. But his hands were shaking. He knew this wasn't a normal mission. This was a mistake. Some soldiers begged to leave. "We've seen enough," one said. "This is not a test we can win." But the rules of their empire were clear. Leaving without success would mean shame. And for Deathworlders, shame was worse than death. So they stayed. One group went out to explore deeper into the zone, thinking maybe they could find the center of the mystery. 15 went in. Only one came back. His body was torn and burnt. His eyes were wide open, but he said nothing. Not a word. He just sat down, shaking, staring into nothing. That night, a thick red mist covered their camp. It burned their skin. Melted their armor. They ran for shelter, but the mist followed. When the sun rose, the camp was in ruins, and another 100 were gone. By now, even the bravest among them stopped asking questions. No one wanted answers anymore. They just wanted to survive, but Earth wasn't done. The weather changed daily. 1 hour, blazing heat that boiled their blood. The next, freezing winds sharp enough to cut steel. Animals they'd never seen before crawled out of the ground with eyes like mirrors and mouths that made no sound. And always, there was the feeling of being watched, but not by a person, not even by a creature. It felt like the planet itself was watching from above. The human observers continued monitoring everything. Quiet, serious faces watched the footage. One whispered, "They still don't get it. This zone doesn't kill with strength, it kills with patience." Because this was never a war, it was a warning. Earth was not just another planet on a map. It was a world that had learned to defend itself, a place that had been through fire, ice, war, disaster, and survived. And now it was sending a message to those who thought they were stronger, to those who thought they could win. Welcome to Earth. Now try to leave. By now, the Deathworlders were no longer soldiers. They were survivors, tired, hungry, and broken. Their faces looked older. Their steps had slowed. Their voices were quiet. The pride they came with had faded. Now they only wanted to get out alive. Every night felt longer than the last. They couldn't sleep. Strange noises echoed. In the distance, footsteps, whispers, scratching sounds. When they looked, there was never anything there. Some started covering their ears, saying the sounds were inside their heads. Others stopped talking completely. The red zone wasn't just killing them on the outside. It was breaking their minds. One soldier stood guard through the night. The wind. The sun came up. He was gone. His boots were still there. His weapon was still there, but he had vanished without a sound. No struggle. No blood. Just ... nothing. His friend who stood nearby didn't even hear him. Leave. That's how the zone worked. Quiet, clever, cruel. Now, even the commanders were afraid. They had lost control. No plans were working. No maps were useful. There. Signals couldn't reach their ships. The world around them kept changing. Trees moved overnight. Rivers shifted direction. The sky changed color. It felt like the planet was playing with them, testing them. The worst part, the silence from Earth. The humans were watching everything from far away. Cameras hidden in satellites, drones flying high above, sensors placed years ago.
But they
didn't say a word, not a single warning, not a single reply. Some Deathworlders started to understand why. This wasn't a trap by humans. It was a warning by Earth itself. The planet wasn't just dangerous. It was alive in a way they had never seen before. One soldier wrote in a private report, "I used to think we were the most advanced species in the galaxy. Now I think we're just insects here, lost in someone else's world." Soon, the small fights began. With food running out and fear growing, the Deathworlders started arguing. Accusations were shouted. Some believed others were hiding supplies. Some believed someone had made a deal with the humans. One group even tried to leave on foot, hoping to find the edge of the zone. They never returned. The ones who remained split into smaller groups. Hiding in caves and thick forests, they no longer trusted each other. Their technology had failed. Their leadership had fallen apart. And Earth showed no mercy. One morning a storm came out of nowhere. Black clouds, red lightning. Wind so strong, it picked up their gear and threw it into the trees. Fire rained from the sky. A group tried to run to higher ground, but the ground cracked open beneath them and swallowed them whole. It was no longer a survival mission. It was a slow, painful disappearance. From above, the human scientists kept watching. Quiet, calm. One of them, an older man, simply whispered, "They're not the first to think Earth is just dirt and rock. This planet remembers, and it protects itself." And deep inside Earth's red zone, 5 soldiers remained. 5 out of 2,000. Didn't speak anymore. They didn't eat much. They didn't sleep. Just sat, watching the sky, listening to the land. Waiting. They had come to conquer, but now they were begging for mercy. One of them, looking around at the empty burning land, finally said, We're wrong. Because they finally understood something simple. Earth doesn't forgive. It warns once. And then it waits. Far above Earth, in a quiet room filled with screens and live signals. A small group of human scientists watched everything. They saw the fear. They saw the confusion. They saw the mistake that the Deathworlders had made the moment they landed. They had come with pride, with weapons, with confidence, but they didn't come with respect. And Earth noticed. The Red Zone wasn't created by humans. It was discovered. Long ago, when early explorers first entered it, they saw signs that didn't make sense, rivers that disappeared overnight, trees that moved slightly when no wind was blowing, animals with patterns. That matched the land perfectly. Many who entered never came back. Some were found days later, walking in circles, whispering to themselves, forgetting their names. The government sealed the area, called it a hazard zone, and built quiet satellites to observe it from above. No wars were fought there. No bombs were dropped. Earth didn't need protection from the outside. The Red Zone was its own shield. When the Deathworlders announced their arrival, Earth didn't fight back. It simply stepped aside. It let them enter. Because Earth wanted to show them something. It wanted to remind the galaxy that humans didn't survive because they were lucky or smart. They survived because they adapted to a planet that punished weakness, forced change, and never gave second chances. The Deathworlders thought they were strong, but they were guests in a place where even humans tread lightly. Inside the zone, only 5 of them remained. They were tired, thin, dirty. Their suits were torn. Their weapons were useless. Their armor had melted in the storms. They didn't walk like soldiers anymore. They walked like people who had seen too much, heads down, shoulders heavy, eyes empty. They no longer tried to fight the land. They listened to it. I sat still for hours, watching the wind move through the grass like waves. Another whispered, to the dirt, asking for forgiveness. Another drew shapes in the soil, copying patterns they had seen in their dreams. They had become quiet. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they were finally hearing. They were hearing the message. Earth had been trying to send since the beginning. This is not your place. You were not invited. Now you understand. Above the human. Teams made a decision. They sent one single signal down. Just a short message, no voice, no threat, only a direction, a path, a way out. The 5 survivors followed it without question. They walked through forests that no longer felt angry. The animals watched, but didn't attack. The sky stayed calm. The land stopped shifting. After many days, they reached the edge of the zone. Waiting for them was a small human team. No guns, no guards, just a few people, wearing light suits, holding water and quietly watching. One of the Deathworlders tried to speak, but no words came out. His throat was dry. His voice had been silent for too long. The humans gave them water. They gave them food. They didn't ask questions. They already knew the answers. And then one of the humans spoke calmly, with no pride or anger. You saw it. You felt it. Now you know. The message was not meant to scare. It was meant to teach. Earth wasn't trying to prove it was stronger. It just wanted to be left alone. The red zone had done what it was meant to do. Protect the planet from outsiders who didn't understand. And now the survivors understood one thing better than all the weapons and machines. They brought, Earth isn't dangerous because of humans. Earth is dangerous because humans had to survive here. When the 5 survivors returned to their ship, the rest of the galaxy held its breath. They were the only ones left out of 2,000 elite Deathworlders, trained fighters, warriors from the harshest corners of space. Yet these 5 didn't look like heroes. They didn't speak loudly. They didn't raise their heads with pride. Their armor was damaged. Their bodies were weak. Their eyes had seen something no one else could understand. They were not returning as victors, they were returning as messengers. Back on the ship, doctors and scientists rushed to examine them. Everyone wanted answers. What happened? What killed the others? What kind of weapons did Earth use? What technology could destroy an army without even showing itself? But the survivors didn't have technical answers. They spoke in short, simple words. The land moved. The air watched us. The silence followed us. Many in the galaxy didn't believe them at first. Some thought it was a trick. Others thought the 5 had gone mad. After all, how could a simple planet do so much damage? But the footage told the truth. The ship's recordings showed entire squads disappearing in seconds, creatures that melted back into the ground, trees that moved when no wind blew, voices that came from nowhere. And most of all, the fear in their own eyes. That fear couldn't be faked. The Galactic Council gathered in emergency meetings. For years, they had seen Earth as a small, chaotic world, loud, emotional, full of conflict. Something else. Something deeper. Earth was not dangerous because it had the best weapons. It was dangerous because it didn't need them. Its greatest defense was the planet itself. The red zone had acted like a living wall, calm at first, merciless once disrespected. And the humans? They never stepped in. They simply watched. One council member said, if Earth can train humans to survive that, let's imagine what those humans are capable of outside their planet. And suddenly, the galaxy looked at humans with new eyes. Before, humans were seen as unpredictable. They were seen as survivors, shaped by a world that pushed them to adapt or die. No other species had gone through so much, yet still stood strong. Earth had volcanoes, storms, droughts, floods, wild beasts, and still humans thrived. Now it made sense. It made sense why humans were so tough, so creative, and sometimes so dangerous. They had been fighting to live since the beginning. The surviving Deathworlders were quietly taken to a recovery station. They didn't speak much, but one of them left behind a simple note before going into silence. It read, "We walked into Earth with pride. We left with respect. Tell the galaxy, do not go uninvited." And that message spread fast. Warnings were sent to all systems. Earth's red zone is off limits. Do not engage. Observe from distance only. For the first time in years, the galaxy felt small because now everyone knew Earth wasn't just a planet, it was a test, and only 5 made it out alive. Back on Earth, the humans who had watched everything from afar remained quiet. They didn't celebrate. They didn't shout or boast. They just recorded the data. They already knew what the galaxy had. Just learned their planet didn't just grow life, it protected it, silently, strongly, without mercy for outsiders, because the truth was simple. Humans didn't make Earth dangerous. Earth made humans what they are. The story of Earth's red zone spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species, every planet, every council, and every leader had heard the same thing. Out of 2,000 highly trained Deathworlders, only 5 returned. But what really shook everyone wasn't just the number of deaths. It was the way it happened. There was no war. No enemy ships, no laser fire or nuclear blasts. No human soldiers even stepped foot into the zone. The land did it. The planet itself defended its space. In silence, without warning, the survivors never fully explained what they saw. maybe because they didn't know how. But the recordings were enough. The footage showed fear, confusion, and helplessness from some of the most feared beings in the universe. It was a quiet reminder to the galaxy: Earth is not like other worlds. Soon after, the Galactic Council made a decision. A new law was passed. Earth's red zones were to be permanently marked as no-entry zones, no exploration, no research missions, no contact. And for the first time in years, Earth became a place no one wanted to test again. But something else changed too: the way people saw humans. Before this, many alien species looked down on them. They called humans messy, unpredictable, emotional, and wild. Some even laughed at Earth's history of wars and mistakes, but now, those same critics were quiet. They finally saw the full picture. Humans came from a planet that fought them every day, with storms, earthquakes, deadly animals, burning deserts, freezing mountains, and more. Yet somehow, humans kept surviving. They adapted. They learned. They kept moving forward. That kind of strength couldn't be built in soft places. It only came from struggle. Across the stars, governments started updating their files. Humans were now labeled as Tier 1 survival class species, a title only, given to those who could survive worlds where everything wants to kill you. More species began approaching Earth differently. They no longer tried to conquer or control. They came to learn. They came with respect, and humans, they welcomed them, carefully, politely, but always with clear lines. The humans didn't speak much about what happened in the red zone. They didn't need to. Their silence was louder than any speech. Meanwhile, the 5 survivors from that mission disappeared from the public eye. They lived quietly in protected zones, not as heroes, not as prisoners, just survivors. They no longer gave interviews. They no longer spoke of Earth. They had already said everything with their silence, and deep within the red zone, the land returned to stillness. The trees stood tall. The rivers ran quiet. The animals moved through the fog. No signs of war, no signs of visitors, just peace, the kind that only comes after a storm has passed. Earth didn't roar. It didn't scream. It simply reminded the galaxy of one powerful truth: this world made humans. And if humans could survive here, then maybe the rest of the galaxy should be a little more careful. Back in orbit, a young human pilot stared down at the blue and green planet below. He smiled slightly and said, almost to himself, "They thought we were the threat, but they forgot to look at the ground we walk on." Earth wasn't just home to humans. It was the reason humans had teeth, claws, and hearts that refused to quit. And as the galaxy watched from a distance, one quiet message echoed across space: never test a species trained by a planet that doesn't play fair. Because Earth doesn't chase you, it just waits.